Ch02-33 offered by Bindoji, and all the replays of the earlier talks are available either as replays in Clubhouse, or I have shared 3 links on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast, where you can access Bindoji's talks on Bhagavad Gita, but also on Avarokshanubhuti and the earlier Upanishads, elaboration of the Upanishads. For housekeeping, I'll close the chat and hand raising when Bindoji is conducting the class, after which we will open up those 2 channels for you to ask questions and have discussions. Over to you, Bindoji.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste and welcome to everyone. Let me do my invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamshi Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashikridau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtibeda Vivagine Vyomavat Pyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramो Panishadai Gayandiyam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyandiyam Yogino Yasyandam Navidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Oh. The last class we saw that even for a person with the knowledge and determination in the resolute knowledge, he can be easily swayed into samsara if he is not careful. And then we saw that restrainment steadies the mind and the identity secures it. And only when the senses obey and no otherness remains, the wisdom no longer waves. It stands as complete. But then, we are unaware of one thing. We do not know the process or the method in which sense organs have such a power that even a person of knowledge can slip and fall prey for it. It's very difficult for us to know this because we are not in the state of where we have the knowledge. We are all what we know is we are already victims. But we did not know how we became victims. Plus, when Krishna said that even with knowledge, unless you are vigilant and controlling your senses, you will not be secured of the knowledge. You may be drawn, prasabham manaha. This mind will be carried away by force. Atha idanim parabhavishyataha sarva anartha muladim moolamidam uchyate. Here now, what Krishna is going to say is the process how the sense organs are able to have so much of power. The sense organs are after all Jada. And then how does it get the force or the power? Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu vajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate. This is verse number 62. Dhyayataha, while contemplating, vishayan, the sense objects, pumsaha, of a person, sangaha, means attachment, teshu, in the sense objects, upajayate, means develops, sangat sanjayate, from attachment develops, kamaha, the desire, kamat, from desire, krodho vijayate, desire from anger. So, Swami Chinmaya used to say this is a ladder of fall. From the person of knowledge, how does he fall into the samsara? Basically, how we all became what we are today. We are all self, but today we do not know we are the self. We have the verbal knowledge or the textual knowledge of Atma and Brahman, but we are not convinced about it. We do not have the conviction for it. So in the case of a person who dwells on an object, this is where the whole thing begins. When we start dwelling on objects, sangha, that is the word used. Sangha means to dwell upon, to get attached to an object, or when remain constantly in the proximity of an object. It can be anything. Kanakam, Kamini, Kanjanam. Anything which can be there, or anything in the world of objects. There arises an attachment for them. From the constant proximity to sense objects, we develop an attachment to it. A familiarity comes, and when it is missing, we feel that we are missing something. These subtle things, we are not aware how they are growing into such a attachment within us. And then from attachment grows hankering. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. The desire for the object on which we are constantly dwelling upon is the next call. And from a constant hankering springs the anger. Kamat krodho vijayate. From the, the need for the object or the hankering, krodho vijayate. That is something which is not very clear if not explained. When do we get angry? Have we analyzed it ourselves? We become angry when we expect something and that expectation is not as per our desire. So desire is what is making the expectation. And that expectation, when it is not met, we become agitated and angry. This is very common thing, but people who become angry, they never look back or never feel the necessity to find out why they became angry. They think it is their birthright. If it is something is not done as per the wish, or some return is not coming as per the expectation, or you perceived that things will go this way as per your expectation, it didn't happen that way, you become upset and angry. You will become first upset, and then you need some excuse to get angry. So if somebody comes by nearby, even though there is no contribution that by that person for the cause of anger, your upset nature is becoming a explosion in the form of an anger to that person whoever is in that time next to you. It can be your family, it can be your child, it can be a colleague, or anybody for that matter. We do not think of our reactions. And all reactions stem from one thing. There is something called an expectation. That expectation can be for anything. That expectation is created by the desire, which is in turn coming out of a constant dwelling upon that object of that desire. Therefore, Shankaracharya says, Dhyayataha chintayataha vishayan shabdadin vishayan vishaya visheshan alochayataha pumsaha purushasya sangaha asakti priti teshu vishayeshu upajayate utpadyate. For a person who dwells upon or who contemplates on the objects of sense, such as sound, etc., we have only 5 sense organs. So the objects are all corresponding to the 5 sense objects. So when it is sound, etc., means Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. Starting with sound onwards, all the 5 sense organs. And the rest, who repeatedly reflects upon the particular sense objects. Through the sense organs, we are reflecting on repeated activity on the corresponding sense objects, which results in an attachment or a clinging or an affection. It can be in either attachment or an affection or a clinging, a desire, whatever may be there. This arises towards these objects. Sangat prite samjayate samutpatyatehe kama trishna. From that clinging or attachment, or from that fondness for the object, the liking for the object, there arises a desire or a craving for that to be persistently as per your requirement. Even it can be your dog. If it is playful and doing what you expect it to do, you don't do anything. You pat it, you feed it food and take him for a walk, etc. But the moment, for some reason, it starts keeping on barking at somebody who has come to your door, and you ask him to shut up, it doesn't shut up. It continues its barking because he has sensed something abnormal in the person, guest who has come. but then you become angry at the dog. The dog's nature is to bark at something which is not unfamiliar. You don't accept it. You actually have to move the dog inside or away from the seeing that person or the thing which has come up to your door. It will stop or it will reduce that. But you don't have the time and you don't analyze that. Same way your child. Why do we become angry at our children? We expect them to behave like adults. When they don't behave like adults or our expectations, then we become angry at them. But when we want them to play as child, that is the time when we shower our love to that child. So the same child is liked and disliked depending upon our desire at that moment. Therefore, kama kutaschit pratyahatat krodha abhijayate. From that expectation or desire, when it is obstructed in any way, pratihatat, ka krodha abhijayate, anger is born. This is a psychology of bondage, which we really do not understand that it is a bondage to us. This is a clinical analysis of our pattern, and it is not a moralistic review of our values and beliefs. So, dhyayataha is the first slippage in cognitive psychology. Before any action, even before the emotion comes into exhibition, dhyana, chintana, alochana, here means lingering thought, imaginative rehearsal, and repeated mental turning towards the objects. This is not a deliberate indulgence yet, but it is unwatched attention. We give attention which without our knowledge. Therefore, the bondage begins in the thought, not in the deed. We have not started acting. It is at the level of the thought, at the mental level. Then the thought becomes the attachment. Repeated contemplation produces this attachment. Sangaha means association or sticking or being in the proximity or wanting its proximity all the time. Develops an asakti, an adhesion or a clinging, because there is a preeti or a liking or a pleasure due to its proximity being there with us. So when we stack these terms to show a gradation, a natural attention, a neutral attention, which brings in the liking, and that becomes an emotional investment in the object. At this point, the object has succeeded or acquired our personal meaning. Now the object has become meaningful for us. And therefore, the attachment matures and blossoms into kama or desire. So once this liking is established, kama arrives inevitably, because we had a personal meaning for being in the proximity of the object, which when matures, becomes the karma. It is not a choice we deploy. We become choiceless due to the desire, or rather a psychological consequence. Then the desire, which is an attachment seeking fulfillment, is what becomes the next gradation for fall. This desire which is developed is not a primitive nature, but it has been constructed due to the proximity to the object. Psychologically developed by us, unknowingly and without being attentive about it. Swamiji used to say, sometimes a cloth-clad sannyasi or a yogi, he will become even attached to his loincloth, which is of no value or no significance. But if it is taken away when he is drying it up, he will chase the dog or the monkey to get it back. Or some people carry a mat or a pedum or a stool for their sitting when they give pravachan or then they give discourses. And they carry it around all the way wherever they go. Or they will ask their disciples to carry it on their head and bring it to wherever he is giving. And he has to stand on that even when photographed with a president or, people like that. Or even the thing. But they will have to, their adherence or liking towards that seat is so much. So that is why it is called, it is not primitive but a constructed one. Then why is anger born from the desire? Desire assumes entitlement, expectation, and a continuity. These are the outcomes of desire. It thinks that it has an entitlement, and that entitlement is an expectation. Not only that, it is momentary. It is expected continuously because you are in the proximity of the object. Then when the desire is blocked or delayed or denied, it mutates into anger. Thus, anger is a frustrated ownership, not a mere irritation. The warning by Krishna is implicit here. Do not underestimate mere thinking. The entire cascade of fall begins there. Hence, earlier instructions for withdrawal of senses, vigilance and over attention, steadiness in knowledge, these are to be perpetually followed every moment. Every experience, when it happens, we cannot withdraw a sense organ from its natural process of hearing, seeing, etc. But we can withdraw our attention to it, or our appropriation to it. Not only that, we should be constantly vigilant about it. Just not attention alone. Don't be just saying that I am attentive about it, that I don't fall for it. No. Jagrata. We need to be vigilant about it. And how can we achieve that Jagrata? That is where the steadiness in knowledge helps us. The knowledge will tell us that what is our true nature. And with that nature of knowledge of our true nature, when objects are coming in contact with our sense organs, we should know that is the nature in which sense organs and objects are created. But our investment into that, their nature, is what makes us fall in the ladder. But with the knowledge in us, when we are vigilant, and when we say withdraw the senses, means withdraw our appropriation or our investment in the activity of the sense organs and the sense object. That is the only way in which we can make foolproof method in which we do not fall prey for these things again. So repeated contemplation on sense objects initiates bondage, and that thought matures into attachment, giving rise to the desire. And when this desire is obstructed, it produces anger because we expect it is our birthright. This casual chain of degradation begins at the level of attention. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa. Dhyayataha. One who is attending on the objects. Therefore, mastery is a must. It should begin with the guarding the mind. So Shankara says that bondage does not begin with action, nor even with desire. It begins when attention lingers. Therefore, watch the thought and the rest never arises. So it has to be the dhyanam, not from the meditation point of view. The thoughts in the mind is also called dhyanam. The 63rd verse. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha. Buddhinashat pranashyati. That completes the fall. Pranashyati means it's the downfall of the one who started with the dhyayataha. So these two verses together give the complete ladder of fall even for a jnani who is not watchful about his thoughts. So from the anger, krodhaha abhijayate manifests. The krodha has got two aspects. One is the bubbling of thoughts within the mind. That is the primary stage of anger. When it starts manifesting or exhibiting in the form of verbal abuse, physical, onslaught on the others, whichever is obstructing it, that is when the anger abhijayate. That means the anger becomes manifest or matures into a form of an action. Krodhat bhavati, from anger happens sammohaha, perfect delusion. Sammohaha means when samyak mohaha, sammohaha, perfect delusion. When we are angry, why do we become abusive in the verbal or the physical nature? Because we have lost our balance. We have lost our capacity to analyze. This is called the delusion. So this delusion is born out of the anger when we do not deploy our analytical skill, which we have, but momentarily we have forgotten it due to the overwhelming nature of the anger. And sammoha smriti vibhramaha. And from this delusion is the bewilderment of memory. That is what I said. We are not able to analyze it. This bewilderment, vibhramaha, of memories, whereby we can know the pros and cons of events or actions, is born when we are deluded by anger. And from this bewilderment of analytical skill or memory is buddhinasha. We have the intellect, but we are not able to deploy it. Therefore, it is considered to be lost. We don't have the tools for the intellect to function, overwhelmed by the anger, which has resulted in the bewilderment. And from the loss of the buddhi or the intelligence to analyze the situation, pranashyati, that completes the downfall, which makes us regret later. Sometimes we may not even know how to regret. We still hold on to the actions, foolish actions, what we did, just trying to justify. And invariably, we want to find out that somebody else is the cause for my anger. So my anger is not my fault, because somebody has come in between to stop my desire from expecting what it is expecting. So I am not at cause. It is the person who stopped my desire from maturing who is the culprit. So that is the state where we are saying that the total downfall has completed. Because we are not admitting our mistake. We are not able to see our own pitfalls. So from anger comes the delusion. From the delusion, we lose the memory of pros and cons. From the failure of the memory with the pros and cons, we lose the understanding or intellectual analytical skill. And from that, when we do not have that analytical method, there is no course correction possible. And that is where we make mistakes in our life and we fall. That is the pranashyati. He perishes. Because he is no more that person who is equanimous, who sees sukhadukke samikruta or, tasya prajna pratishtitaha. His prajna is no more pratishtita. His knowledge is no more in the realm of, where the abiding in the self is happening. Because he has forgotten that what he is the self, he is now become what all of us experience in our day-to-day life. Shankaracharya writes that Krodhat bhavati sammohaha avivekaha karya karya vishayaha. That means from anger arises delusion, non-discrimination with respect to what should be and what should not be done. Kruddhahi sammudaha san gurum api akroshati. Sammoha smriti vibhramaha shastra acharya upadesha ahita samskara janitaya smritehe syad vibhramaha bhramshaha smriti utpatti nimitta praptau anutpatti. What does he say? For the one who is angry, being deluded, even abuses his own teacher. From the delusion arises a confusion of memory. Smriti vibhrama. What is that? A failure, a collapse of memory that is born out of latent impressions implanted by the teachings of scripture and the teacher. That is when the occasion for memory to rise is present. It nevertheless does not arise. The teaching is giving us how to control our vasanas. And that is a memory by the teaching of the scripture and by the teacher. And that is the knowledge which should arise and help us in our abidance to the knowledge. But it nevertheless does not arise due to krodhaha. Tataha smriti bhramshat buddhi nashaha buddhehe nashaha karya karya vishaya viveka ayogyata andhakaranasya buddhehe nashaha uchyate. Tadanantaram buddhi nashat pranashyati. Then, from the loss of memory comes the destruction of the intellect. The destruction of intellect is said to be the incapacity of the inner organ for discrimination between what should be and what should not be done. And when we do not know what should be and what should not be done, this destruction of intellect, one perishes. Tavadeva hi purusha yavat andhakaranam tadiyam karya vishaya viveka yogyam. That is, indeed, a person exists as a person only as long as his inner organ is capable of discriminating between what should be and what should not be done. That is, makes a man different from an animal. What should be done, what should not be done, we are not driven by instincts or temptations. That is why we are able to trap elephants or tiger or lion or any animal for that matter, because they don't have the discrimination. They see the eatable prey or food and they walk into the trap, because there is no discriminating intellect for them. But as long as we have the capability for discriminating between what should be and should not be done, we are considered human beings. Tad ayogya nashtatve tayogyatve nashtaha eva purusha bhavati. Ataha tasya andhakaranasya buddhehe nashat pranashyati. Purusha Artha Ayogya, Purushartha Ayogyaha Bhavati Ityartaha. So when it becomes incapable of that, that means when a person is incapable of discrimination, the person is as good as destroyed. Therefore, from the destruction of the intellect of his inner organ, Antakarana, one perishes. That is, he becomes unfit for a human means. This is why anger is not merely a fault, but an existential threat. That is covered in this verse. From anger to delusion is a loss of ethical orientation. What is called the sammoha. It is not an ignorance in general, but a loss of discrimination regarding the action and inaction. And what does anger do? It overwhelms our judgment, proportionality, reverence, etc. That is the example when he said that a person who is angry may even ridicule or scold the teacher, one's own teacher. This shows the anger can invert values, not the way in which we should be upholding our values. Our values are inverted, turned upside down. Smriti Bhramsha, collapsing of guiding memory. Here, Smriti is not mere recollection of facts, but it's an operative memory for scriptural instruction and lived imprint of the teacher's guidance using the scriptures. But when the anger is induced, delusion arises for us. Even when the conditions are ripe, the memory fails to surface. The problem is not absence of learning, but the failure of access to the discrimination. That is why Buddhinasha means. Buddhinasha is not insanity. The word Buddhinasha means loss of intellect, can be insanity or loss of intelligence. But it is an inability of the inner organ to discriminate between what should be done and what should not be done. Rather, it is the collapse of ethical and practical discernment. Therefore, it is devastating. Why a person is said to perish at the end of the verse is a buddhinashat pranasyati. A person is a person only insofar as the discrimination is operative. When discrimination is gone, agency denigrates, responsibility collapses, Purushartha becomes impossible because he is no more able to recollect his teaching. And a person who is not able to recollect his teaching cannot achieve moksha. And if moksha is not achieved, you are back into samsara, which is as good as you have perished. All your pursuit till then for the purpose of the spiritual path becomes in vain, because your qualification for human birth and the striving for the spiritual means is lost. So, to put the previous verse and this verse together, and it starts with unwatched contemplation, mere thinking, sangha, which slowly develops into attachment. At that level, we are unaware that attachment is blooming in us. And then that matures into a full-fledged desire. And the desire anticipates expectations and results according to our desire. So when that is obstructed, the same desire now becomes an outburst of anger. In the state of angry, or the state of anger, angry state, we are totally deluded because our direction or attention is on the event where the expectation has been hindered or prohibited or obstructed. And this delusion develops into a loss of memory, karya, what should be done, what should not be done. And that memory, when it is lost, the intelligence is not able to access the logic for retrieving the situation or holding back our anger. The anger may prop up in the mind, but it will not become an emotional outburst. But when the intellect is not able to overpower the mind controls our words, thoughts, actions, etc. And when that intellect collapses, the very purpose of our life is lost. This is not a moralism. It is psychology with metaphysical stakes in it. It is a direct psychological evaluation of our behavior. But at stake is our spiritual development. So to sum up, anger produces delusion regarding the right and the wrong. Delusion destroys the access to guiding memory. Loss of memory leads to collapse of intellect. And without discrimination, person is effectively destroyed. Human existence is defined by ethical cognitive fitness, that we lose it. Therefore, vigilance at the level of the thought is the basic beginning from where we have to begin with. Sarva anarthasya moola muktam vishayabhi dhyanam ata idani moksha karanam iti adimuchyate. Idamuchyate. Now, how do we redeem from a situation like this not happening? Krishna in the 64th verse says that Raga dvesha viyuktaistu vishayani indriyaicharan atmavasyaihi videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. So the previous verse ended as buddhinashat pranasyati. This verse ends prasadam adhigacchati. Prasadam means placidity of mind or serenity of the mind. Adhigacchati means attains, or is now becoming the powerful intellect back again. But how? Raga dvesha viyuktaihi. by one who has been free from raga and dvesha, attachment and detachment. 2. But vishayan indriyaihi charan, various sense objects, vishayan, indriyais charan, while enjoying through the senses, atmavasyai vidheyatma, the sense organs now which are disciplined by vidheyatma, the self-controlled one who has now disciplined that sense organs, even when the sense organs are in the vishaya, in the sense objects, because he is free from attachment and detachment. Neither of them. He thus observes the sense organs and the objects are not I am the sense organ seeing, or the kartrutva, bhoktrutva aspect is not there for me. Neither he is the one who is seeing, nor he is the one who is enjoying the vision. In the vision, there is a likelihood of likes and dislikes. Both are not seen by him. Because that is the way he has decided, he has learned self-control. The self-control is abiding in the self, the knowledge of the self, which is used for this method of freeing oneself from the attachment and detachment. Such a person, prasadam adhigacchati. Now, on the contrary, one who moves about and consumes the sense objects by means of his sense organs, which are freed from desire and hatred and are abiding in the self. Such one with a disciplined mind attains serenity. That is how a normal engagement becomes non-binding. The engagement is happening, but there is thoughts which are controlled and regulated by abiding in the self. Please understand very carefully. The nature of the mind cannot be changed. The nature of sense organs cannot be changed. The nature of the sense objects cannot be changed. All that can be changed is how the relationship is maintained. Knowing the nature of the mind, we are now turning the mind to be attentive about the knowledge which we have studied throughout our spiritual progress. Using that knowledge of the mind, we observe without being invested in the sense objects and the sense organs interaction. That is what is called the raga dvesha bhumuktaihi. Ragaha cha doshahascha raga dveshau. Tat puraha saraha iti indriyanam pravritti swabhaviki. The senses naturally function, preceded by the attachment and aversion, for their activity which is inherent in them, driven by attraction and repulsion. This attraction and repulsion between the sense objects and the sense organs are natural. But it is preceded by the function which is in the mind as in the form of attachment and aversion. Tatra yaha mumukshu bhavati saha thabhyam vimuktaihi shrotradibihi indriyaihi vishayan avarjaniyan charan upalambhamanaha atmavashai atmanaha vashyani vashibhutani indriyani tai videyaha atmaha ichchataha videyahatma andakaranam yasyaha saha ayam prasadam adhigacchati. In that context, the one who seeks liberation using the senses such as the ear, etc., free from attachment and aversion, raga dvesha, moving among the sense objects that need not be avoided. That is where the importance lies. That need not be avoided. Avarjaniyan charan. Vishayan avarjaniyan charan. The functions of the eyes, ears, etc. cannot be stopped. Either we have to force ourselves to be blind or we have to pierce our ears to become deaf. They are all natural. So they are not avoided. Experiencing them without rejection and attraction. With senses that are under control of the self. The senses have got two aspects of it. One is the contact point with the objects. The other end of that is the contact with the mind. And that is the place where the self-control has to take place. But the other end where it contacts the sense objects, we have no control over it. They are natural, inherent. Eyes, when it is open, it will see an object. But when an object is being seen, whether it is attachment or aversion, is decided by the other end of the sense organ which is contacting the mind. Therefore, the senses mastered and governed by oneself, whose inner organ is obedient, amenable to one's control, rather than dragging one by desire, such a person attains the prasada or serenity. So now we know, even though they are prasabham manaha, the mind is the one which is being carried away by the sense organs. But when that mind becomes controlled to look in the right direction of the self, instead of getting attached to the likes and dislikes through the sense organs, such a person attains serenity. Prasadaha, prasannataha, swastham. That is the definition Shankaracharya gives. Prasada means clarity, cheerfulness, or inner health. The world of avoidance as a criterion of freedom is rejected by Shankaracharya. He explicitly rejects that the world is avoided for the freedom, for the moksha. Why? We should know first what is raga dvesha. The sense activity is naturally preceded by the likes and dislikes. This is how the apparatus starts working. Liberation does not require destroying the apparatus, but it requires disengaging with the drivers. Avarjaniyan vishayan, the objects that need not be avoided. Objects need not be rejected. What must be rejected is the appropriation. Thus, the freedom is not where the objects are absent, but where the raga dveshas are absent. The likes and dislikes are absent. That makes the mark of a mumukshu. Therefore, the seeker's hallmark of governance, Atma Vishaya Indriyaha. Senses obey the self. Atma Vasya, not Atma Vishaya. Atma Vasya Indriyaha. The sense organs obey the self. Videyatma, the inner organ is complement when the sense are obeyed the self. This is the inverse bondage. The mind not dragging us outwardly, but dragging us, directing towards the mind to the self. And that is when the prasada takes place. Prasannata is the cheer or the lucidity in us. Swasthyam is the inner health or equilibrium where we do not get perturbed. Not a bliss as an experience, but an unobstructed functioning of the inner instrument. And it is this inner equilibrium which is the soil in which the seed of the knowledge can stand firm. So between the two errors, indulgence of raga and dvesha, avoidance and born of fear. These are the two errors. Indulgence driven by raga dvesha and avoidance born out of fear. Therefore, we have to re-establish a regulated engagement without attachment. This is the practical seal of karma yoga maturing towards jnana. So do not flee from the world. Do not be pulled by it. When senses obey and the likes are silent, clarity dawns as the health of the spiritual seeker itself, the internal health. I'll stop it here. We'll take the 65th verse. What happens in the prasada, attainment of prasada? Sarva dukkhanam ani asya upajayate prasanna chetasaha hi ashu buddhi paryavatishtade. This is that where the serenity, there flows the eradication of all his sorrows. Because of the wisdom of one who has seen the serenity of the mind, soon becomes established, firmly established in it. We will discuss this verse tomorrow. Tomorrow means Monday. Tomorrow we will have the question answer session regarding the Gita classes. And Sunday we will have our regular open house. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavada.
Thank you very much, Bindoji. Keep Manana. I think we have Joy up on the speakers panel. The chat and hand raising is open for everyone. Go ahead, Joy.
Namaste, Joy.
Thank you, Bindoji. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bindoji, I'll ask you something, but I'll not be able to put, too many details. I entered a little late, and what I heard was more about the inner to whatever is there. Like the thing is there, the object is there, the senses are there. Sorry, I have a sore throat. Like what is happening within towards everything, that not being there. And that's really, always good to always be reminded of this. And I agree, it's beautiful. So in a situation where there will be some ripple, when you know that something needs to be done, something is unsafe, not as a reaction necessarily, but like logically, it's like if somebody's coming at you with a knife, for instance, and usually it's not something as literal as that. It's usually a little more complicated. So in that kind of a situation, let's say an Arjuna moment, you have to be a bit neutral. That pull will always be there where you will feel that, well, I can distance myself rather than having to engage and, like Arjuna didn't want to engage and didn't want to, even in the play, hurt whatever, anything, even though ultimately it doesn't hurt. So it's pretty much about looking within. Of course, this is a different thing where you're saying that not looking within only, but like apne andar raag dvesh nahi aana hai. But practically in a situation, then it makes all the more sense that one keeps with your own looking, the own awareness, the own inner thing of not having the ripples within you, rather than having to be engaged in the outer action, which the thing is you can try to do the actions without being engaged, but the pull of the situation will be that why do you even need to do something about it if you are not affected? And I do understand that, but like in practical execution, this becomes something which I needed more clarity on. Thank you.
Hey, Joy, there are two types of situation for us, all of us in our life. Inevitable, unavoidable, and what can be avoided. What can be avoided if you are engaging, you are a fool. All of us are fools if we engage into unavoidable things. So we have to discuss only about how do we engage in an unavoidable context of engagement with the world. If it is unavoidable, you have to engage. There is no choice of it. But while engaging, if you can be in your equilibrium without the raga and dvesha, the attachment and the aversion, not being deployed by our mind, whether the reaction comes from the other side, we will not be affected by that because we don't have an expectation. We are engaging for this unavoidability of the engagement. But when we have expectations, that expectation is stemming out of the raga and dvesha, the desire which is creating it. So when we do not have that desire, the unavoidable engagement, whatever may be the outcome, we will be equipoised or we will be in our equilibrium. It can be favorable, it can be unfavorable. Both are acceptable to us. This is what Krishna started saying, that Sukha Dukkhe Samikritva Labha Labho Jaya Jayo. When he said that, this is exactly what we have the choice for. Avoidable things, totally avoid. Unavoidable, be unattached to the outcome. That's the only way we can do that.
Yeah, thank you, Binduji, which is because of this only. I'm saying not the reaction of the other person self. If it creates some ripple and we are taking an action based on that, then maybe one can just move away completely. That was what I'm asking.
See, anything we will evaluate if we are engaged in it. But that evaluation of the outcome should not be done. If you do that, that means that you have invested in the action. That should not be done. Action for action's sake. Nimitta matram bhava savyasajin is the advice given by Krishna to Arjuna. Be an instrument. Don't be the owner of the event or owner of the action. If you own it and then perform that I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, or I expect the outcome, then you have to go through all the consequences. Then means that you are not in a state of equilibrium. But when you take a stand that I am an instrument for the Almighty to perform whatever is being performed, the outcome, whether it is good or bad, is not mine. I performed what I am supposed to do with the capacity given by the God. So therefore, why should I be worried or engaged in such a situation? What will be the outcome? I will not. Whether people call me names, whether they praise me, or whether they abuse me, or they say I am a fool, or I am an intelligent person, all should be treated the same way. Namaste, Jesse.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Joy. Are you complete, Joy? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, namaste. And Joy, your question prompted the answer that I needed to hear. So thank you for that. So about anger, this was really good. And I have only had one explosive outburst of anger in the last few years, and I'm still learning from it. However, I understand that that anger can be created by thwarted expectations. And in one of the traditions that I come from, there's a quote that anger is never justified, never. And that we need to be vigilant for the temptation to even feel unjustly treated, right? So I get that. But now I'm talking about serious expectations in the world. I'm talking about contracts and business and transaction. And when I come across someone who is a liar or a cheat or a thief, I am still not of enough equipoise to not get disturbed by that. And so that idea of either unavoidable or what can be avoided, so is the lesson for me to, even in these legal aspects, which I have the business acumen to find out about, this contract was broken this way, this one that way, is the game for me to just be engaged and use my skill and capacity, but to do that engagement without attachment for the outcome. I don't want these people to harm others. How do I deal with that question? Thank you.
Yes, Jesse. In my opinion, an unavoidable situation is not there in this particular case. It can be avoided. If you know once that this person is a liar or a cheat, do not engage with him. Cancel the contract. Let him go to hell. Wherever he wants to do the cheating and everything, that is his problem. Now, outside other people getting hurt, there you don't have to take the role of a Messiah or a savior of the world. No. You are not the Messiah or savior of the world. You are only supposed to take care of yourself. Krishna will tell this later in this. Atmaiva bandhu atmanava atmaiva ripuratma. You are the best friend to yourself and you are the worst enemy to yourself if you do not treat yourself properly. Others should know how to take care of themselves. If somebody falls a prey, we know scams are happening every day, so many places, so many people. Can I stop that? No. All I can do is that I should not fall for a scam, to be vigilant for it. Like that. Like that should be your this thing also.
Okay, so then if I am in contract with someone who is a thief and a liar, then going through all of the appropriate social and cultural mores and channels of suing his ass, I can do, but in a way that is detached, and I can watch myself for the attachment of either engagement or indulgence for anger or avoidance of the situation. I'm trying to find an equal place to still do the actions in the world of suing people who have done wrong, but yet not being angry. So thank you so much for your responses.
Thank you, Jesse. Namaste, Bharata.
Namaste, Binduji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
I just came up with this last thought prompted by Jesse's question, where you mentioned that we just need to be inwardly looking, not really bothered about the worldly affairs, and looking at not being a messiah. I wouldn't want to be a messiah, but outside of the Gita, we do hear all through the Sanatana teachings, we could do, one of the very famous things is Paropakarartha Vidam Shariram. Paropakaraya vahanti nadyah, Paropakaraya duhanti gavah, Paropakaraya palanti vrikshaha, Paropakararthamidam shariram, Paropakaraya kartavyah, Pranairapi dhanairapi, Paropakarajam punyam nastyat kritushatayrapi. No, Paropakara is one very strong theme. And within the Gita also, little later, we will hear some of the phrases like Loka Sangrahamevapi, Sampashyan Kartumarhasi. Then later he again talks about Sarva Bhuta Hit. There is a famous, very repeating phrase, Sarva Bhuta Hite Rataha. Always being, wishing for good of the entire overall society. And not just in the, and that cannot be restricted just to the thought, because even the Karma Yoga talks about Loka Sangrahamevapi. So the Gita does talk about the shades of the Paropakara Svabhava. Some of the Bhashyas also do talk about that, Jana Sushrusha and things like that. And outside of the Gita, Paropakara is a very, very strong theme. So with that kind of a backdrop, how do we understand what you just said to Jesse's point of not wanting to be a messiah? I wouldn't want to be a messiah, but if there is a way I can help someone, I shouldn't turn back. That's the dharma yuddha, the way I understood. So I would like you to please elaborate a little more on that, Pindoji.
Bharata, I'll ask you a simple question. If you do not know swimming, will you jump to a river and try to save somebody?
If I know swimming, I will definitely jump in.
If you do not know, that's my question.
I will try whatever is my possible way to help the situation.
Will you jump into the water will you jump into the water to save somebody?
I will help. I will want to help in all different ways possible.
I am saying, that means you will jump into the water even without knowing swimming.
That's not the only way. That's not the only way.
No.
So there are many ways in which I can help. I can cut my shirt.
Let example remain.
One of the meanings.
Bharata, let me complete. Let example be used only in the question which is asked. You do not know swimming. Somebody is in water. And will you jump to water to save him? I didn't ask you whether you will save him in any other means. That is not the question which is being asked.
The binary answer is no.
This is exactly what we all get into the trap. What the spirituality says that first you should be anchored. If you are anchored, you can go for Paropakarartham. Then all the Paropakarartham is not where you also get carried away in the process of Paropakaram. You cannot lose yourself in the process. So, Loka Sangraham and Paropakaram, that is for the benefit of the world and for the saving of others, can be helped only when you are anchored in yourself. That is a precondition for any guru, any teacher, or anybody for that matter. Unless you are firm, you see, for example, now Jessie's question itself. If she is thorough in law and the legal aspects of everything, she can use that for safeguarding others. But if she knows only the particular case where she has been cheated or that's that person, that should not be treated as an experience to go ahead in the world and help others. That particular person, especially a cheater, will know 100 means to cheat others. But that means which Jessie has faced may not be the case with which somebody else will be facing. So your advice may not be in the right way, the right direction. Same way, when we go to the world for helping others, we should not get affected by the events what we are. Even the expectation of helping others should not be with a intent for a result of I am saving somebody. How will you do that? Only when you are anchored in your truth nature. There you are not going to treat yourself separate from the other person. You are in mentally, you are helping yourself in the form of another person who is also the self in me. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvancha mai pashyati. That is the way in which you are helping. Not because yatra you are seeing an anyatvam. Ananyas chindayantoma. All those statements, Krishna himself is saying that there are nothing other than yourself in the whole world. So first we have to establish ourselves in our own nature, and when we are abiding in our nature fully, then we see others also as ourselves. That time what you are doing, you may be seen as loka sangraham by others or paropakartam by others, but from your point of view, your internal nature is you are helping yourself in the body of somebody else. You are not seeing somebody other than yourself.
Absolutely. So that
clear?
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, Nidhuji. So when I'm killing, also in the Dharma Yuddha, I'm not killing anyone. I'm killing myself, maybe one bad element of myself. When I'm protecting someone also, according to the local, the worldly view, I'm not helping anyone but myself. So that's absolutely fine. But earlier when I heard that, I don't want to be a messiah, you don't have to be a messiah. If I look at it from the worldly view of how people look at it, there is no harm in any one of us going ahead and extending our hand where the help is needed. That's the message I give.
Thank you, brother. Because we often do not see the whole picture before we see the tunnel vision as to what we heard, and based on that we go ahead and take up a stand. That should not be done. We should know the total picture and then address the issue.
Is the total picture a reflection of expecting the results? Because we will never know the full picture, right? When we are so keen on, okay, I should be helping, my act should be of some positive value, where I'm actually counting the results of that action, is where the totalness of the picture will matter. Otherwise, even with whatever limited we know, like for example, when I discuss Bhagavad Gita, I will never have a full answer. None of us will have a full answer of any particular situation. But to the limited extent that we know, we will still make an attempt to answer the situation. Now, if I have to look at the fullness of the picture, that will never be there. And if I have to really bother about the fullness, whether I know or not, isn't that in a way leaning on to the result of the action?
See, the fullness of the picture can be achieved. That is what Krishna's promise is in the Bhagavad Gita. If we follow the path of Krishna, what he has advised, and what his advice to Arjuna is that we will be in total control or in full picture of our true nature. And when that only is happening, the need for helping others, the Sarva Bhuta Hitairata, all those thoughts as defined in the book or in the text of Gita is from a connotation where Sarva Bhuta Hitairata, the word itself is an answer for it. Sarva Bhutam, Sarva Bhutastamatmanam, Sarva Bhutam, say that you know that sloka, no? So when he said that definition, after that when he states about Sarva Bhuta Hitairata, he has defined the Sarva Bhuta, what is that every creation, and when the Hita for the benefit of every creation, he is bringing that totality of the picture. This is where that we should be. I am saying that the total picture is possible for us, which you say it's not possible. I have to beg to differ to you with that, because that is what Krishna's teaching is all about.
Sure, Bindu. You will be clear. Dhanyawad,
Okay.
Bindu.
Thank you. Dhanyawad, Bharata. Namaste, Venkat.
Namaste, Binduji. Is this late? We can always discuss tomorrow.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. So this whole, Dhyayato Vishayan means that whole thinking about this is the basic structure of the creation of the universe itself. This is how it is designed to cling. Because every animal, if we look around, it's all the same. This is the structure of the dwelling itself. And it will lead to Kama Krodha, all this expected structure, right, Binduji? It is not unusual. It is the way the universe is designed, right, Binduji?
That is why Krishna's words are Purusha. When he said about the Purusha, he is not talking about the nature of animals and, he is not talking about the nature of the sense organs also. He is talking about your true nature. The true nature has no investment in the sense objects or the sense organs or anything outside. It is in self-abidance. In self-abidance, you cannot have a raga dosha. You cannot be angry at yourself. You cannot be loving yourself. Both are not possible. Just as you cannot know yourself, you cannot be doing this, because we can never project ourselves as an object outside. We are always a subject. This is that, when he says that, Atmaiva Bandhuratmana, Atmaiva Ripuratmana. So when he says that, you should understand that he has told us not to look anything external to you. The moment that the dvitiyam or the second attitude is coming, then you have already given your mind a rope to hang. Then it will be suicidal.
This is perfect, Binduji. There is a pravrutti and nivrutti. That's the structure of this.
Pravritti and nivritti is from a different angle altogether, Venkat. It is not talking from the point of view of a Sthita Prajnasya Kabhasha group of discussions. That is pravritti and nivritti is from people who see the duality. But a Sthita Prajna doesn't see the duality.
Because we can see the pravrutti happening, nivrutti is also happening. Right, Binduji?
No, pravritti and nivritti is happening as long as you are sadhaka and you are trying to move towards the Sthita Prajna. But having reached the Sthita Prajna, when there is a potency for you to slip and fall back, we are discussing that subject now. We are not discussing the other subject.
Yes, but the basic structure is, if somebody say that I cannot meditate because they're already meditating on Vishaya, right? The same meditation is already happening. someone denies I can't meditate, they're already meditating on some Vishaya and, getting into a trap like this.
Mm.
And once getting trapped, I think the effect of trap is already playing out. And one figures out, okay, this is how the design is, and try to, be alert. Then the trap will not play. Then the swastha, the swasth is prasanna is given because the trap is not affecting. The prasanna is a result of it. Now this gives two possibilities. One is getting trapped. Now how one can operate without getting trapped. So that's the that there is this swadharma swabhava is described in detail somewhere, Binduji, in coming anywhere
Yeah,
beyond.
it is coming in Gita. It's coming in Gita. Later
Okay,
chapters it will come.
then we'll go wait for that then, Binduji.
Yeah. Thank you, Venkat. Thank you. Prakash?
Yes, Binduji. So I think we have passed the time. I've closed the hand raising. Thank you everyone for attending the session, and especially those who came up and asked questions. A special, sense of gratitude and thankfulness to Binduji for taking us rigorously through this very minute steps of Sthita Prajna. Thank you very much, Binduji. Our next session is on Monday, where we continue with session 34 of Bhagavad Gita. In between, we have two sessions. One is an open discussion of Bhagavad Gita, so please come tomorrow for that at 8:30 p.m. IST. And on Sunday, we have the open Advaita discussion, where we discuss some more broader questions, and Binduji will address them. So again, thank you very much, Binduji. Over to you to close the room.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Joy, Jesse, Bharat, and Venkat. And all of you who have been listening patiently. Thank you all for coming. Tomorrow we'll have the question answer as mentioned. And see you tomorrow for the question answers. Hari Om. Good night.
Good night, Binduji.